Welcome to Comics Conversation, where I do my best to guide new Flash comic book readers through the sometimes confusing Flash reading order. This is the third and final part of the Flash reading order. I plan to update this reading order and make videos of the updated list after several new Flash books come out. The reason I made these videos is because I wanted to help new Flash comic book readers understand the entire reading order for the Flash. I know there are plenty of other Flash reading orders on the internet, but none of them contain all of the DC events. I wanted to include the DC events because I struggled not knowing where they went in the reading order when I started, and I wanted to make it easier for others to start reading. I hope these videos have been informative and helpful to you. I will also have parts 1 and 2 in the description below. But now continuing this Flash reading order, in part 2, we left off at the end of the New 52. After the New 52, we enter into the rebirth era of DC comic books. The New 52 is not that well liked because it rewrote the origin stories for several of the characters, and the intent of Rebirth was to bring everything that comic book fans loved about comic books back to DC comic books. This was done so in the DC Rebirth event. Although some things were still in continuity from the New 52, DC Rebirth did rewrite other things that happened in the New 52, giving the writers breathing room to bring Flash Comics in the right direction it needed to go in. This is a spoiler, but I have to say this since what happens in here affects the Flash stories a lot. In this event, Wally West returns and is reunited with Barry Allen. Wally returns with certain knowledge that is vital to the DC universe. I will leave it to you to find out what this knowledge is. I do also want to mention that this event is available in an omnibus with all of the tie-in issues, but all you really need for the Flash is this deluxe hardcover book and this book, or volume 1 of the trade paperback books. This is a good starting point for your Flash readers if you're interested in reading comics that have been published relatively recently, but I would suggest reading the New 52 first, to understand what the characters are talking about when referring to the New 52. I have gone over these Flash books before in previous videos, which I think you should check out. I will still be quickly going over these books, but I mainly will be going over the DC events during these Flash books and where they take place. The first issue in this book continues from the DC Rebirth event, and Barry and Wally are discussing what happened to him. This next book contains a crossover event known as the Button. During the DC Rebirth event, there was this button that was discovered, and the Flash and Batman have been studying it, possibly giving them an answer to the recent changes in the DC universe. This button may look familiar to some of you, and I will go over this more as I go over a DC event later on in the video. This little crossover event has been collected in several ways. You can get it in a deluxe edition hardcover, a trade paperback, and both collect the 4 issues, or you could get the Flash Rebirth Deluxe Hardcover Volume 2 and the Batman Rebirth Deluxe Hardcover Volume 2. Since I have the Flash Rebirth Deluxe Hardcover, I did not feel like I should get the crossover and collected edition since I would be paying for the Flash issues twice, so instead I purchased the Batman Rebirth single issues number 21 and 22. These issues do have a lenticular cover, which I thought was cool, but these are parts 1 and 3, while the Flash issues are parts 2 and 4. Moving on to book 3, I do want to say that what is collected in these 3 books is the same that is collected in the first 6 volumes of the trade paperback books of the Flash Rebirth. There is a chance that these books will be collected in omnibus form, but sadly there will not be any more Rebirth Deluxe Edition books, so I would suggest to stay with getting the softcover versions. The reason I have these is because I got these when there was word that there would be a 4th deluxe hardcover book. There is a DC event that takes place during this book. This event is known as Dark Knight's Metal. This event takes place after the Flash issue number 33. The order these 4 books should be read in is Dark Days Road to Metal, Dark Knight's Metal, Dark Knight's Metal, Dark Knight's Rising, and Dark Knight's Metal Resistance. You can check out the Google document to see the specific order of those 4 books. During this book, Wally helps out with defeating this villain. There are other Flashes that help out as well, but with Wally West being my favorite Flash, I really enjoyed seeing him work with the other Flashes. This next book is The Flash War. This book is about how Wally encountered one of his old enemies, and they reminded him of something that was taken from him. I will let you find out what was taken from him, but Wally is set out to open the Force Barrier because he thinks that will bring back what he lost. Barry goes to stop him because neither of them really know what is beyond the Force Barrier, but Wally refuses to stop, and eventually they break open the force barrier, unleashing 3 new forces. These new forces play a big role in the next couple books, but the main thing that stands out in this book is that it is made clear Wally West is the fastest Flash. These next 2 books really deal with the problem the new forces cause, and their effect on the Speed Force. I do want to say that there has been this side plot to many of the books I have gone over, and this is all leading up to another DC event taking place after this book. Before going over that DC event, I do want to say that Wally was sent to a place called Sanctuary, and I will go over this in a little bit, but at the end of this book, Barry was informed that there was an incident that took place at Sanctuary, and something happened to Wally. This DC event is Heroes in Crisis, but first I will quickly go over what Sanctuary is. Sanctuary is a place where heroes go when they need to recover, not physically, but mentally. This is really just a place where heroes would go if they would need therapy. Because of certain things that happened, Wally ended up needing to go there. This event is about how all of those in Sanctuary at the time were killed. We get to see flashbacks before this incident and learn of some of the problems the heroes struggle with. This leads into Heroes in Crisis: The Price. This is a book with a side story with Barry and Bruce working together to see who is responsible for the murders of the heroes, and by the end of each of the books, they both come to the same conclusion and find their culprit. I will leave it to you to figure out who did it. I will say that we learned that Wally was able to survive what happened in Sanctuary. There is nothing too major that happens in this book. It is mainly about one of the Flash's villains trying to pull the greatest trick on him. This book is a retelling of the origin story of the Flash, and I think it is a good standalone story that new Flash readers can read if they are interested in reading a Flash comic book that is pretty recent. After these 2 books, there is another DC event, as well as a Flash event. This book is about how those new forces are gone for good, but this was at the expense of the Flash's powers, and now all of the Flashes have trouble using the Speed Force. Before going over Volume 14, there is another DC event that takes place during this time, which is known as Doomsday Clock. This has been collected in a couple different ways, but I have the 2 hardcover books collecting the 12 issues. This is the event that DC has been leading up to ever since DC Rebirth. There is some suggested reading before reading this event, and that is the graphic novel Watchmen and Rebirth. But the main thing I would suggest to read before this event is Watchmen. This next book is a Flash story, and this is Flash Forward. Due to certain things that happened in Heroes in Crisis, Wally asked for him to have a power dampener because he could not trust himself with his powers. Keep in mind this is before the other Flashes lost control of their powers. This means that Wally has been oblivious of the fact that the Speed Force is difficult to control. At the beginning of this book, his power dampener was damaged, and there was no sign that Wally had a difficult time controlling his powers. It was said that the more the Flashes stopped analyzing the Speed Force, the more it made it easier for them to control the Speed Force. It has also been stated multiple times while Wally was the main Flash that he had a spiritual connection to the Speed Force, and instead of studying the Speed Force, or in other words analyzing it, Wally simply enjoyed the power he was given. This means that Wally has such a good connection to the Speed Force, he was not affected when the Speed Force was supercharged, while the other Flashes were. I do think this is a great story with Wally as the Flash in this book, especially since he has not had the spotlight since before Barry Allen returned. I would recommend that you give this book a read, but I do want to say that it has been confirmed that Wally is not only the fastest Flash, but the fastest being of all the multiverse. This book is about Wally trying to save this parallel multiverse, a dark multiverse, and if you are interested in reading about it, you can read the Tales from the Dark Multiverse. This is not necessary. It is just a series of the Dark Multiverse that was introduced during this book. The last 3 books on this list are the Flash Volumes 14 and 15, as well as this deluxe edition book of the Flash number 750, which is an oversized comic book celebrating the 80th anniversary of the Flash. I am waiting for Volume 14 to arrive, and Volume 15 will not be released until October 12, 2021. This deluxe edition book does have an epilogue of the Flash Forward story, so I would suggest reading Flash Forward before this deluxe edition book if you choose to get it. After The Flash Volume 15, there is another DC event, and this is The Dark Knight's Death Metal. There are 5 books that collect that event, so I would suggest to check out the Google document to see the order those books should be read in, but I do want to mention that the Justice League Death Metal book won't be released until September 28th, 2021. And that is the end of the Flash reading order. Please let me know if you think there are any books that should be included in this reading order. I will leave the link to the Google document to this reading order in the description below. I hope this has been helpful to you. Thank you for watching.